All set.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to the July 27th regularly scheduled board meeting. We will start by the recitation of our vision statement, where every school will be a thriving school that prepares every student to graduate from high school, college, career, and community ready. We have a moment of silence in remembrance of Stephen Hubbard. We'd like to ask for a moment of silence this evening for our district to recognize the passing of Stephen Hubbard, who was in 5th grade at Falk Elementary School. Stephen was a proud student and he loved playing Minecraft, spending time outside and going on trips. He could brighten up anyone's day and make them laugh. Stephen is remembered as someone who had an infectious smile, and he was loved dearly by his classmates and staff. Stephen's passing was taken a significant toll on so many students and staff in the Falk community, and we remember him tonight. Please join me in participating in a moment of silence in honor of Stephen. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we will move on to approval of minutes. I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular meeting public input session dated May 18th, 2020.
So moved.
There was a second, Nikki.
Yep.
Any discussion? Okay, Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We have another approval of minutes. I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular meeting dated May 18th, 2020. Can I get a second?
Second.
Christina, second. Any discussion? Okay, Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, we'll move on to board president's announcements and reports. We will start by acknowledging the MMSD Summer Food Program helps feed many of our students this summer. Our MMSD food and nutrition staff, in partnership with Second Harvest and REAP Food Group, are successfully executing the MMSD Summer Food Program that helps feed many of our district's school children at over 50 sites throughout Dane County. The program's food trucks and services further assist our children by allowing them to eat nutritious meals at essential times throughout the day, while also supporting small and local family businesses and farms. The board humbly appreciates all MMSD food service staff, Second Harvest, and the REAP Food Group for their efforts to see our children fed, especially in these unprecedented times. Next, disrupting systemic racism in education, featuring MMSD educators. The Black Lives Matter movement and current and ongoing racial injustice events have been at the forefront of our society and district to engage in conversations regarding race. This past and current month of June and July, our Family, Youth, and Community Engagement Director, Angela Ward, along with 4 wonderful Black educators from various MMSD elementary and middle schools, hosted online conversations covering several race-related topics. MMSD teachers, including Camera Stovall of Alice Elementary, Alexis Dean of Mendota Elementary, Darion Henderson of Hugel Elementary, and Jessica Fleischman of Wright Middle School discussed topics including disrupting systemic racism in education and solidarity and in support of times of racial injustice. The live broadcasted online conversations were a success, with over 10,000 community members having participated by commenting and asking questions or by viewing the conversations on the district's Facebook and YouTube pages. The board recognizes and appreciates not only all the wonderful teachers who hosted these ongoing conversations, but all in our community who are working towards an equitable future for our children and for ourselves. I mean, that was a huge number of people. That's a significant number of people attending this. That was wonderful. We just received, we are in receipt of the request to rename Falk Elementary School to Malele Chikasa Anana. This will spark the 30-day comment period, and a committee will be formed, and a formal request will come back to the board probably in sometime in October. So there is this 30-day comment period where people can go on to our website to submit any comments to the board. And that is the link is currently on our website. I did receive an email from Women in Focus. They sent an email making this request as well, and in support of the name change. Next, I want to take some time to pass it on to the board to have a conversation and about Jane Belmore's last meeting tonight. And so, Jane, this is your last board meeting. I can't believe it, but I'm sure you're like relieved. Thank you for all your work. I mean, this is never knew, you probably didn't even think that when we asked you to come on board to serve as interim, that you would be confronted with all these challenges that we have been dealing with. I can just remember from the racial slurs incident, the just the unknown of the superintendent search, and COVID, police officers in schools, virtual learning. You have been through a lot, and you have taken us and guided us and led our district and our board with so much compassion and leadership. And we just really want to thank you for your service and coming back to take us through some rough times. Jane and I go way back. I think we worked together when I was in the city. And then also as a kid, I remember Miss Belmore when on the playground at Lowell Elementary School. And so it's amazing to be able to be in this space with you and have learned from you and shared some of these really difficult moments with you, and just seeing you in action. So thank you so much again. And we owe you so much. This community owes you so much. The board owes you significantly for taking us through these challenging times. And so I'm going to open it up to board members to say a few words before we move on to the next agenda item.
Yeah, I can hop in. What a year it's been. I think we started this journey at similar moments in time. And, I remember first joining the board, and our two big rocks to move were to get a referendum voted on and to conduct a superintendent search and hire someone. And we achieved those. And I believe you have shepherded the district and us as a board to a better place for our students. Um, as Gloria said, I do think we go a little bit back at least. I was looking at my high school diploma, and it was your name that signed it as well, with James Howard back in 2013. And that was just really special. And through all the adversity through this year, we also had some successes that we should be proud to talk about as well. And I think when I look back at this year in my life, I'm just thankful that we were able to learn and go through this together as well. So thank you for the past year and all the memories we've built together.
I forget that Sevian is so young. 2013. Yeah, Jane and I met in 2012. And I remember you came to the Latino Education Council meeting because I think you had just started, or somebody told you, like, there's this meeting, you gotta come, they wanna see a bunch of data, they wanna hold the district accountable. And you're like, parachute into this meeting, just learning about the people, learning the energy of the group. And you did extremely well navigating, folks wanting to have data, they wanted to have disaggregated data, and you're like, oh yes, that is really important. We need to bring this back to the team. And you follow through with all the recommendations and all the asks of that group. There's most of the time in Madison, a person of color, a brown or black or indigenous person navigate the city, doing a lot of things that are important to a lot of people, but they navigate a lot of spaces with invisibility. And every once in a while, there's people that see us, they acknowledge our work, they praise us, they open doors for us. And you saw me. You were one of the few people that saw me, saw the work that I was doing in Nuestro Mundo, saw the work that I was doing at Latino Education Council. Even, I think, you were still learning and you're still trying to understand things, but you saw me. And I remember us talking when I was running the campaign, when so many people are like, who is this person? Where did she came from? What she has done to make her eligible as a candidate for a school board. And you knew I had done so many things. You knew that I was, leading a lot of really great work in the city. And then later on, you recommended to restart the SHRAC group, the Superintendent Advisory Group. And you put my name on a short list to be working with Jen Cheatham as part of her transition. And I never forgot that, Jane. I don't know if you remember that, but I never forgot this because, it's not common for that to happen. It's very unusual for people to see and maybe not agree with everything that you're saying, but like to really see, like, you're someone that that are really using your voice and your space and volunteering hours to do something to achieve educational justice for our children. And then you got out of the way to open doors, to put me on a list and to support me and to counsel me. And I really appreciate you. This is one of those moments that, it's a bittersweet because I also hope that I will never call you again. Because it felt really weird in 2019, have to call you to serve again. So I really appreciate that you answer the call, that you were very generous with your time and your willingness to be in this really challenging year with us. Sending you all the best. If we end up calling you again, I hope it's for a different reason other than just calling you back to be a superintendent again. Wishing you all the luck, Jane. And I really hope that you retire really soon because you this year made up for like 5 years or 10 years. So wishing you all the best. Thank you.
I'll go. I met you when you first started, Jane, and I have appreciated working with you. I think you've helped shepherd the district through a lot of dark times. And I really appreciate all your hard work. Coming out of retirement to be an interim superintendent is hard. Coming out of retirement into a pandemic is, well, unthinkable considering it hasn't happened since 1918. So I really appreciate your work, your dedication to the job, and everything you've done. And I thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Nikki. Christina?
Yeah, Jane, I want to say a sincere thanks to you for your service to MMSD as interim superintendent, not just once, but twice, for coming back to help and lead during this time. Although we haven't had a whole lot of time to work together, a lot has been going on in the last few months that I've been involved. And I think I speak for many when I say that your time, your effort, and your dedication to this district is really appreciated. And we wish you the best in your next adventures, wherever those may lead. And I hope you just have a little bit of time just to sit quietly and do nothing for a while. So thank you.
Thanks, Christina.
I can jump in here. Jane, I'm so grateful to you for stepping up and doing this. It's not easy to be an interim in a normal year, and this year has been anything but normal. Many years down the road, when we're talking about the pandemic in the past tense, you're going to have the best pandemic story to tell in the entire city of Madison. You'll be able to say, oh yeah, during the pandemic, I was the leader of MMSD and we shut down all the schools. We got all the kids' devices. We got hotspots for all the kids who didn't have devices. And we did the legwork to get a couple referendum on the ballot in the meantime too. So that'll be a good story. And we're so grateful to you for helping us achieve all that in really difficult times. I hope you get to move on and do wonderful things in your retirement that are relaxing and fun and right now socially distant, but hopefully not for much longer. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Ali?
Yeah, Jane, I cannot thank you enough, and I don't think we could ever thank you enough. I don't think there is any way we could have been prepared for what this year had in store. And I think had we known, it would have been much harder to convince you to come back and support our kiddos. But I'm so grateful that it was you at the wheel, because you kept us on the road when it was really hard to stay on the road. And Frederick Douglass says, without struggle, there is no progress. And you definitely allowed for us to progress while struggling, which is a complex thing to do. I appreciate that you confronted really complex issues head on, that you navigated our team with love and integrity, and that you put our students and our educators first every step of the way. We are sincerely lucky to have worked with you. It's been an honor to serve with you and to get to sit next to you at board meetings when we sat next to each other in person. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ali. Julia, did you want to?
Well, I haven't had that much time with you, but all of the time that I have had, you've been really kind to me, and I've been able to see that your leadership has just been really seamless and graceful. So thank you for setting such a good example and for always being kind to the kids in the district.
Yes, thank you all for sharing those thoughts with Jane. Now, we did extend her contract just a little bit, so she will be just for a few more days. She will be at our instruction work group meeting Monday, but your official last day is what, August 5th?
I'm not really sure.
Okay. We're still figuring that out.
But Dr. Jenkins will be here August 4th, and he will be taking over.
Yes. And, Jane is sticking around to help him with the transition. So thank you, Jane, for that. Okay, we will move on to Jane, your announcement and reports.
Well, thank you all for those wonderful words. They really, really are important to me. And I remember when Gloria called me one day, as she said, we've been kind of working together in the city. And she said, I just want to have lunch with you and talk to you about, I know you were interim superintendent once. I just want to talk to you about, you know, what is a good interim superintendent? What are we looking for? And I said, oh, sure. So we had a nice lunch and I gave her my thoughts. And then a couple of days, maybe 3 or 4 days later, I was driving into the garage and Gloria calls me and I thought, what is Gloria wanting? She asked me if I would step in and be interim superintendent again. And I thought, I was not expecting that in any way, shape, or form. But when I, stopped to think about it, and I really thought about, my first experience as interim, I thought, well, I can come in for this year. I can hold the district steady. I can do that for a short term and really just try to get everything prepared for a new person to come in and take over. So that's kind of what I really thought I would do. And I knew there would be some important decisions to make, and I knew there would be struggles and challenges because I had kind of done those things before. Little did I know what the year would bring, and I think you all are feeling probably the same way. And really, it's because of elements out of our control that we found ourselves at the last part of the year in this really, really challenging, complex, probably historical, one of the most difficult in some ways that MMSD has ever had. But at the same time, I just have to say, I found it to be a really rewarding and meaningful experience. I think I said it maybe at one of our first board meetings and maybe at the principals meeting that we were a district that was looking to build trust. And, really you can't build trust without struggle. And I thought, we're going to struggle through some things, but it's how we address that and how we get through it that really results in people truly being able to trust each other, because until you struggle, you don't know. And little did I know, we were going to be struggling a lot, but I think our challenges really can serve to bring us together. And I think we're all struggling with that. We're struggling as a nation to come to unity. We're struggling as a community to become unified. And I think in our district, we have that same struggle. So I think, Savion, as you mentioned, we accomplished a lot this year. And when I think about that, I think about creating a whole new school district, basically, in 2 or 3 weeks. And if somebody had said to me, you're going to do that, I would have said, no, it's impossible. You can't do that. But we did, like so many districts around our country, stepped up to the challenge and made that happen. And we made it happen in a way that was good for our students. They were safe. We got them all connected after a lot of hard work to the internet, and fed them and provided continuous learning experiences for them. So as I reflect about the difficult decisions, I also want to say that one of the best decision as a leader was to put my faith in MMSD and in our incredibly brilliant and hardworking staff, and to trust their expertise to help navigate us through these waters, and to really do that and keep what's best for our students at the center and keeping them safe. So there are a number of talented people that I've had the honor to work with this year. And really, I can't mention them all individually because there's just too many, but I want all teachers and staff members, all principals, central office leaders, and a very special team of MMSD senior leaders and Dr. Mike Herding, who came out of retirement to join me and support me. I want you to know that any success that the district has had this year, and we've had a lot of success in a lot of different ways, has been always based on their hard work and their successes. So I would not take credit for all the good things that happen. I want to step up and be responsible for the things that we maybe didn't do so well. And I certainly would have hoped to address those and would do that. But I just want to thank them so much for their dedication and hard work and their commitment to students. I think it's sometimes our greater community does not always see that day-to-day commitment and hard work from our staff. And I just really would be remiss if I didn't point that out right now, to be recognized and fully appreciated. And I also want to thank each of you, school board members. You have each in your own way provided your own leadership. We've become more collaborative together. We have a commitment to the common goal of really doing what's best for our students and our community. So I really want to thank you for that. And I want to thank the Madison community. And I really want them to know that as my time as interim superintendent, it was always your emails and messages of encouragement and support that served as a reminder of keeping our families and students at the center of the work that we do. I'm proud to say that we listened to community voice, advice, and guidance, and had that voice help shape our districts this year. And so our staff, our board, our community, I just want to give you all the appreciation that I can, because I know pretty much I've done most of the jobs in the district, or many of them now. So I do understand, you know, how committed you are to the work and how hard the work can be, but how joyous and wonderful it is when we see kids really making progress. And lastly, speaking of our students, most importantly, I want to thank all of our students. You are the reason we're here every day. You're the reason we come to work each day. And I know I speak for all staff, all parents, and everyone in our community when I say that we really know the events of last year were most hard on you. We know some of our decisions with the intent only to keep you safe disrupted your lives in a significant way. However, I want you to know that your response and your resiliency and understanding is very inspiring. And it's through your resiliency and inspiration that we can take inspiration and know that we can overcome any challenge that we face if we face it as a unified front and support of each other. Our future will be in your hands. So I want to thank you for being the wonderful student body that you are here in Madison. And thank you to everyone. There are great things ahead for MMSD. There's going to be, there's a lot more to be written. We have a superintendent coming in who I have great confidence in. I think he already has shown great understanding of this district. I think he's exactly the person that MMSD needs right now, and will bring exactly the knowledge and the skills and the experience that will move us forward. So thank you for letting me be a part of this story this year, and thank you for choosing me and allowing me to serve Madison this year. I really appreciated it.
Wonderful, Jane. Thank you so much. Okay, next we will report on items that proceeded through the instruction work group. Ananda?
We have not met since the last time our meeting, but we have a very exciting meeting next week. And we have decided to put a couple things as a common agenda item, including the reopening of schools and virtual learning. So we'll also be reviewing with everyone the timeline, the scope and sequence for next year. So if folks have any particular things that you want to make sure that is included, please email me or text me. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ananda. It was a great idea to include the updates on virtual learning and going back to school on our regular instruction work group meetings. Next is report on items that proceeded through the operations work group. Chris Crucy.
Thank you, Gloria. So we talked about a couple of things at our operations work group meeting on July 13th. We were briefed on our annual cash flow borrowing, which we will vote on at the August regular meeting. The borrowing amount for this coming school year is roughly in line with past school years. And this loan enables us to basically pay our bills until we receive our tax revenue in the second half of the fiscal year, and we're able to pay off the note at that time. We also talked about proposed changes to transportation policy 5111, which will accommodate later middle school start times, and we'll be voting on this item tonight. The operations work group is not scheduled to meet in August, but will meet on September 14th. And the proposed agenda items are a budget update for the 2020-2021 school year and a check-in on the referendum.
Great. Thank you, Chris. All right, so no action items that proceeded through instruction work group. We'll move on to the action items that proceeded through operations work group. And that's what Chris just referenced. So I move that the Board of Education approve changes to board policy 5111, authorized transportation as set forth in the document prepared for the regular Board of Education meeting dated July 27th, 2020.
Second.
Second, that was Ali.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Okay, Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda items. Do the main motion, and then we'll work on exclusions, if any. I move that the Board of Education adopt and approve all of the motions set forth in section 9 of the electronic agenda prepared for the July 27, 2020 regular school board meeting, exactly as said motions are written. By voting affirmatively on this motion, a board member expresses his or her affirmative vote on each of the motions consolidated hereby, subject to any express separations that have been made by any member of the school board. Can I get a second?
Second, Chris.
Chris, second. Okay, discussion? Christina, did you have something? I just noticed that you took your mic off.
Oh yeah, I would just like to separate out one of the items. Is that where I do this?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So 9.15.
9.15. Chris?
I'd like to separate 9.3 and 9.25.
9.3 and 9.25. Any other separations, Nikki?
I believe it's 9.27, the human resource report.
9.27. Okay. All right. Any other separations? Okay, we are separating 9.15, 9.3, 9.25, 9.27. Okay. Other than that, Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. We'll go directly to 9.15. Equal Opportunity Schools to serve as equity consultant.
Sure, thanks. So I pulled this from the consent agenda just to highlight the work that Equal Opportunity Schools has done with MMSD over the last 3 to 4 years. I do fully support this investment for the 2021 school year. Our work with EOS has been part of a resolution with the Office for Civil Rights to address racial disparities in access to and preparation for advanced coursework in high school. And I've followed this work since 2016 when the resolution was signed. The focus of EOS is on removing barriers to increase access to AP courses for students of color and low-income students. They have provided equity reports for each high school, data analysis on course enrollment trends, course capacity data, surveys of staff and students, and expanded outreach efforts to families and to students. An important element of this contract is to build our own district's capacity to continue this work on our own after the investment is over. And this is important as the format of analysis, I think, that is provided by EOS could be applied not only to AP course participation, but could also be scaled to address barriers in access and participation and preparation for 9th and 10th grade honors courses, as well as earlier preparation through expanded academic opportunities at the K-8 level. I would say that for the last 4 years, this resolution and the work of EOS has been viewed mainly from a compliance lens, which I believe is a missed opportunity of sorts. This work could be a true leverage point for reducing disparities in advanced coursework and an opportunity to expand the narrative about the diversity of students who can be successful in advanced courses as they prepare for college and career. And so I would like to see more transparency around this work so that our community can see the important work that's happening in our high schools and how to support these efforts. There are a lot of documents and reports that have been shared between Equal Opportunity Schools, MMSD, and the Office for Civil Rights as part of this resolution process. I guess I'd like to know when the board will receive a comprehensive update and the plans for this contract year with EOS. And with all that said, I guess I again want to say I fully support the approval of this item on the consent.
Great. Jane, you have answers to her questions on when we'll get an update or a full update on this? Or Lisa?
Sure, I'm happy to answer. We'll give a full update along with schools data sometime in the fall. This obviously with COVID, the SBLTs have not had an opportunity to take a final look and digest the data from last year. So we can provide that information in the fall as part of the advanced learning presentation through the instructional work group.
Thank you.
Chris, does that answer all your questions?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Great. Okay, I move that the Board of Education approve an expenditure in the amount of $55,000 from the 2020-21 Teaching and Learning Department operating budget via TID 25 for all 4 comprehensive high schools to work with EOS as the equity consultant.
Second, Ananda.
Ananda, second. Any other discussion? Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next, we'll move on to 9.3.
So thanks, Gloria. 9.3 is the renewal of our license for Lexia. I want to start by saying that I reluctantly support this expenditure. On one hand, we've been using Lexia for several years now, and it hasn't really moved the needle on reading achievement in the district. On the other hand, I've talked to some reading specialists who say this year, while we're moving to virtual learning, is not the year to end Lexia. Like we need this tool while we're online. However, Lexia is really expensive. It's $362,400 for an annual license. For that much money, we could make a huge dent in the cost of, at least partial implementation of a new reading curriculum. For that cost, we could provide professional development like letters for our teachers to help them use evidence-based reading instructional practices. So I support funding this year because we are going to be online and this is a useful online tool for our staff. But I think we should look at Lexia as part of the plan that we're going to move forward with on getting a new reading curriculum, on training our staff, and maybe look at shifting away from Lexia and moving some of these dollars into strategies that might give us better results.
Thank you, Chris. Jane, Lisa, your thoughts, response?
Sure. Thanks, Gloria, for the opportunity. I would agree, Chris, that I think that when we are settled on a set of core materials for literacy, I do think that those materials have, because we are looking for an explicit structured approach to phonics, those materials may very well replace the large cost of Lexia. I will say Lexia is the only tool that we have had in the district that has measured foundational skills in a way that we can actually see growth in students with their assessment and their real-time assessments with students. So I do want to say that I think it's important, as you said, Chris, for our year moving into virtual learning, and I do agree that new core materials will likely replace much of this in the coming years.
Great, thank you, Lisa. Any other questions, comments? Okay. I move that the Board of Education renew the licensing of Lexia for literacy in the total amount of $362,400 with funding from the 2020-21 Curriculum and Instruction CRLM budget.
Second.
Nikki, second. Discussion. Okay, Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Next item is 9.25.
So 9.25 is a really exciting grant from the USDA Farm to School program. This grant, I fully support accepting this grant. It is going to help MMSD move forward our sustainability values and priorities. Basically what this grant will do is allow our food service to implement Harvest of the Month, where each month we're featuring local food grown on sustainable family farms in our lunchrooms and as part of our meal program. The one question I have about accepting this grant is I know the USDA Farm to School program requires a match. And it's unclear to me how this match will be covered, but I'm not sure if MMSD is doing it or if REAP Food Group, our wonderful partner who I need to call out, is going to be covering the match. And I know that the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition is advocating to have that match waived because of COVID, but in the meantime, I am curious, given the financial shortfall we're expecting in food service, how we're going to cover the matching portion of this grant.
So I think Kelly and Chad are here. They may know a little bit more about that, Chris.
Yeah, Chad, I don't know if you know more than I probably know at this point. But Chris, I think it's safe to say that the match is built into our budget. It's planned. That's part of our grant process. Anytime we go through grants, in light of COVID, of course, things need to be kind of thought about how the grant actually itself plays out. But that's within our current budget, and I can send you an email with more information if you like, but it's all covered. Chad, do you have more to say about that?
Yeah, I don't have much more to add, Kelly. We can certainly get Chris details. Steve Youngbauer and Marcy were involved in the grant writing process. There could be a large portion of it that is just, is kind of our human capital in terms of us supporting it in terms of labor. And sometimes that'll offset the cost of grants just by us staffing it and supporting it in terms of implementing the actual monthly distribution of all the fresh products. So we can get back to Chris on details, but yeah, like Kelly said, I'm sure it's built into the budget if there's any upfront cost.
It would be really helpful for grants that do have a matching requirement when we get our consent memo, just to know what that match requirement is and how we're going to cover it in the future. So thanks, I really appreciate the information.
Thank you, Chad and Kelly.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly and Chad. Okay, I move that the Board of Education accept a grant in the amount of $100,000 from the United States Department of Agriculture, Food and Nutrition Service to support farm to school programming in the MMSD Food and Nutrition Program.
Second, Ananda.
Ananda, second. Any other discussion around this? Okay, Julia, your advisor. Oh, Nikki, did you have something?
Yes, I'd also like that information just because I'm interested in the matching grant as well. Just I would like that info emailed to me as well if possible.
Yeah, definitely. Good idea. Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Okay, motion passes 7-0. Next, 9.27.
Yes, I pulled 9.27 because this is a unique situation involving one teacher who, from what I was told, and I do not have a ton of info on this, I'm just asking more for procedural than anything else. I know that she entered her resignation, then asked to be reconsidered. And I'm curious, do we have to hold a hearing or can we vote on this? Because I believe we have to give a 5-day notice. I'm kind of confused on that. And my issue is that we're short teachers of color to begin with. And I'm not sure we want to really get rid of people who are doing the work and are making change, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, Nikki, we're not going to really discuss personnel issues here in this forum. So that could be something that you can find out the procedural about a little bit later.
But how can I vote on someone's resignation if how can I vote if I don't know whether or not they legally have a right to appeal?
Nikki, that is not what this vote is. When employees resign, they resign for a number of reasons. And the proper procedure, as Jane said, is a matter to be discussed outside of this meeting, as that is not what this meeting was noticed for.
Also, Nikki, just to clarify, when we share that information with the board does not vote on resignations. We can't force people to stay in the organization. So it is just for informational purposes only. And so if you look at the specific report, it does indicate the section where it has separations in there that clearly states it's for informational purposes. So you're only voting on the initial contract hires for that report.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. I move that the Board of Education approve the July 27th, 2020 Human Resources Transaction Report, items 1 through 62. Can I get a second?
Second. Ali.
Ali, second. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Nikki? Okay, motion passes 6-1. Other,
Clarify that, Nikki, are you abstaining or did you vote no?
I voted no.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
Sorry about that, Barb.
I wasn't clear, sorry.
Other reports to the board, the City of Madison Education Committee.
We're still on hold with the city committee. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Student Senate.
Sure. So this last week, we had a meeting with some students around the district who'd kind of voiced their thoughts on reopening, on class curriculums. And so we communicated that with Mr. Moe. So we talked a lot about curriculums with him, and we have some plans starting up with that. And then other than that, we're in recess right now, but we're planning on having a meeting with Dr. Jenkins within the next couple of weeks so that we can have a large meeting with hopefully a lot of students around the district so that they can meet him and ask him some questions. And of course, we'd always love to have anyone here who would be interested in coming to that. So thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Just curious on what the students were sharing about reopening.
Students had all generally a collective desire to make things a little bit more rigorous than they were last year. There's generally support for grades being reintroduced. I think you guys were planning on doing that anyway, but They also had some questions about whether or not it might be possible to have students take an overload of courses, seeing as there won't be actual hours in the day. So there is definitely student interest in that. A way to get out requirements and take a little bit more than they had been expecting. Mr. Mo wasn't sure if that would be an option just because we're not sure what's going to happen with second quarter, but there's definitely student interest in that. So I think people are interested in looking through that.
Great, thank you. Julia, just curious, are you guys going to cover it at all as far as student well-being, the health and wellness of our students in your conversations?
So that is something that we're hoping to focus on this year. One of our main goals is student mental health. We're not sure how to approach that right now with coronavirus being under mission, but I did notice there was one of the grants in here was for student mindfulness. So if anyone knows anything about that, I'd be curious. I think it was 9.22 maybe, but I was going to email those people and see if there's anything Student Senate could do to help with implementation of the mindfulness program and equity and things like that. So if anyone has any interest in working with Student Senate on that or any ideas, we would love to hear them always.
Hey, I would love to participate in some of those meetings on student mental health during this time.
Great, thank you. I can email everyone about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Yeah, I think that's an important conversation to have, particularly now. So thanks for sharing, Julia. And next, MSCR.
MSCR had a meeting last month. We do not meet again until September.
Okay. Other business, annual declaration of educational standards. I move that the Board of Education adopt the new Wisconsin standards for English language arts, physical education, and personal financial literacy as developed by Wisconsin educators and experts using a transparent and inclusive process with educator and public engagement. I further move that the Board of Education approve the previously adopted Wisconsin academic standards in mathematics, history, science, geography, and technical subjects, as these standards specify what students should know and be able to do in the classroom, and also serve as goals for teaching and learning with a focus on ensuring the MMSD curriculum is historically accurate, inclusive, and culturally relevant. Can I get a second?
Second, Chris.
Chris Carusi, second. Any discussion? Okay. Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. The at-risk plan renewal. I move that the Board of Education renew the at-risk plan as currently written so that implementation can continue according to the timeline and so that the MMSD remains in compliance with statutory requirements associated with learners at risk of not graduating as set forth in the documents prepared for the July 27, 2020 regular board meeting. Can I get a second?
Second, Ananda.
Ananda, second. Discussion? Chris Carusi?
Thank you, Gloria, for bringing this forward. I just want to raise concern over the fact that our timeline for receiving data about the at-risk plan is not lined up with the state's timeline for approving the at-risk plan. So basically every year we approve this thing in July, which we have to do statutorily, and then we don't get the data until the fall. So we generally aren't using our data to inform changes to the plan that might actually help us improve outcomes for our opportunity youth. I'm not sure what the reason is that we don't have that data in time. I'm not sure if it's all on us or if DPI is not providing us with data in time for us to be able to use it to inform our decision in July. Nonetheless, if you look at the opportunity youth or at-risk students, the reports on students at risk of not graduating for the past 3 years, the numbers have gone up, not down. That just might mean that we're doing better at identifying students. It also probably means though that we are not doing as much as we could to serve students. Likewise, our plan is very heavily focused on notifying parents and communicating things, and not a whole lot of really creative thinking is going into how we serve opportunity youth, with the exception of the micro school, which only serves a very small number of kids in at a couple of grade levels. So I would just like to know why we aren't able to get data on the at-risk plan before we vote on it. And ideally, we'd have a conversation at the instruction work group about how things are going and how we can improve our services to opportunity youth so that more kids graduate.
Jane?
So Lisa, yeah.
Sure. Yep, Chris, this comes up every year, the approval of the plan for the following year happens before the data is ready. That we talked about this a little bit last year as well. Caroline and the RAD team will be preparing a data set to share with you in the fall. And just want to remind the board that last year we did 2 presentations on opportunity youth. We also did some presentations on K-5 reading. So the at-risk plan is really a plan that all of the teaching and learning departments use. And when we present even on our major plans, advanced learning, special education, and English language learners, there is a component there as well around academic achievement. And I'd just like to remind folks that the at-risk plan and the data also feeds our 9th grade on track system that our high school teams use. And we also have, as a result of the at-risk plan, a transition committee that's worked really closely for really strengthening the transition from 4K to 5K, from 5th to 6th, and from 8th to 9th. And I can call on Caroline. I think she's on as well here to chat a little bit more about the data piece. The question revolved around just previously. Caroline?
Yeah, we're a little bit delayed in getting our final numbers based on our data sets that come in. And so it really looks at our data from our previous year. And so we implement based on, so we'll get the numbers for 1920. We'll get that shortly, like within the next week. And then we implement the plan based on our numbers from the previous year. So it's a little bit of a strange rhythm and routine, to your point, Chris. But we definitely work cross-functionally across all departments to support schools in their implementation of the plan's timeline. And so that support ranges from technical to adaptive, and we can give you more information about the creative solutions that schools are co-constructing with families. I think you'd be surprised at the creative options, beyond the micro schools that you had already mentioned. And so this report is really about, and the other thing is that in addition, knowing that the plan has to get approved before we actually get the past year's data, we actually do an after action review with all schools' points of contact so that we can understand, is the timeline reasonable? What didn't work for you? What would work better, so that we can inform our plan with that. And so this was really to report out on the plan in terms of no changes, but also our implementation fidelity, which we increased from 80 to 90%. And we reached or approximated all of our goals for that.
Chris, any further questions? Caroline, the after action plan that's done, you said that's done probably after you get the data?
That's actually done in January, after we've pretty much completed sort of that to-do timeline that's written in the plan.
Okay. And does the board see that?
No, that's just a process that we engage the school level practitioners in.
Okay.
But but it is mentioned sort of the themes that come from that.
Okay.
The state statute says that, it specifically says that the board is responsible for this plan. It's the board's duty to create a plan. And so for that reason, I think giving us as much information as possible and trying to discuss data as much as we can is our responsibility. It's our plan. So
Yeah,
thank you.
yes,
Carla,
and
I
we
appreciate it.
yeah, we intend to do that for sure, and we've done that every year for you. The end of September, early October.
Point of order.
Just a second, Nikki.
Sorry, Chris Commissioner.
What's your point of order? Because I have Ali and Christina.
Sure. My point of order is just that on after action summaries that the board be included as a necessary party.
Okay, thank you. Christina, did you have something? And then Ali, and then Sabian.
Yeah, I was just, I mean, looking at this data, the process of this has been the same thing that's happened. I went back and looked, and it's the same thing like Chris has said, has happened 2 or 3 years in a row. So I guess the question is there a way to change the cadence and that cycle of data so we can get that earlier? If it's starting in January, can we get that in late spring so that it is actually informing that plan? And then I guess the other question that I have is, the metrics, I saw how they've increased the percentage of contacts with families for those, for the emails and from the development of the plan. That seems like it sort of ends in November. So I guess my question is how successful are we in engaging students and families in their individual plans, either through SSIT or the IEP process, as the year continues? So we have a whole full half of a school year left of this plan, after that November 30th deadline. So do we have any measures for that or metrics for that?
We have metrics that are recorded in IC by the schools. And so the quality of that, which is what you're getting to, can only be reflected in what is written in the IC. And that's an individual student by student case, which we intend to examine. So we also do other sophisticated analyses of who is new to the list, who got off the list, how many people have stayed on the list. So even though it looks like there might be an increase, there's also students who are being removed from the list. It's just then a new cohort comes in. The reason that our data is lagging is because it depends on our state required measures, such as the forward exam, which we didn't take this year, but we also need to complete summer school for one of the requirements. And so that's always, we usually work to get the data as soon as summer school is ending.
Okay, Ali? Oh, Christina, do you have more?
Yeah, just one more comment. I would say I would be happy to have that data next year without the summer school and then add that in later if that's a possibility to work that way. I don't know if that would work or not, but that might be one solution to get it faster to actually inform the plan.
Yep, if we don't have forward exam, we can definitely put that on the docket.
Okay, thank you.
Ali?
You're on mute.
Yeah, I think it's really reasonable to hone in and take a moment to emphasize the importance of what we do for at-risk students. Chris, I greatly appreciate your comments in terms of refocusing on what produces the best results for kiddos. And I also think that it's helpful to acknowledge that at-risk and opportunity youth are not actually in alignment, that opportunity youth is our district's expansive way of reaching out to students who need additional support K through 12, which is not the same as what the at-risk plan and being in compliance with the at-risk plan through DPI does. So I think it's important to mention that our district does a lot of wraparound work. And also when we're looking to talk about opportunity youth, things like, a housing crisis in which one of the indicators of who is an opportunity youth K through 12 is whether or not a young person is experiencing housing instability. right? Like we can see shifts in who is in that category based on the reality of our economy or based on the reality of what's going on with housing. And so I appreciate the conversation and the desire to have more information. And I also want to acknowledge the robust effort our district is putting in to supporting our opportunity youth and making sure that our students who are at risk for not graduating have as much support as we can possibly muster at this point in time.
Savion?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to, just point out how gross it is that we refer to some students as at risk when it's our system and city that puts students at risk. I also just want to mention that I personally don't have any issue with the cadence. I remember vividly last year discussing this late September, talking about how of a struggle it can be to identify students. And so, if we haven't increased numbers, at least we're getting better at identifying students who may not graduate on the traditional 4-year track. I just want to say also for the future, when we do discuss it this September and probably more like we discussed micro schools later in the year, last year as well, meetings I'm recalling, and I think it's, board members should recall those meetings as well when we have this in July. But, for the future, as we think about graduation rates for students and the impact of COVID, that we are creating more of a pathway for students to eventually receive their diploma, even if it takes longer than 4 years because of the virus and how that has impacted learning and mastery of content or getting the credits you need to graduate. So thanks.
Thank you, Savion. The at-risk plan is the official state language, right? That they
I'm
can
aware.
use. Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure everybody knows that. I do think that for us, for the board we have this conversation every year around this plan. And I think the more information we can have ahead of time, the better for us. And I understand the parameters and the restrictions that you guys have as far as data goes, but if you guys can give us whatever you have earlier, I think the better for us, so that we can prepare to have this conversation and ask the questions that we need beforehand, would be great. Anything else? Okay. Did I already make the motion? And this was discussion? Yeah, this was discussion, right? Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
2.
Okay. We got 2, or Christina, are you abstaining?
No, but I just think we need the data on a more cadence. So it's just from a philosophical standpoint, I understand we need the plan. I get it.
So how are you voting? I don't.
Nay.
No. Okay.
And I'm voting nay.
Nay. Okay. All right. So 5-2. Christina.
Thank you.
Nay. Okay.
Thank you.
Motion passes. All right. No old and new business. Okay. Can I get a motion?
Congratulations, Jane.
Yeah. Congratulations, James, but we'll see you at the instruction work group meeting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, on Monday.
Yep.
All right. So I move to adjourn.
Second.
Nikki, Julia, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Good evening.